Jotkowitz, and welcome to my Bat Mitzvah. I'm so happy you all could be with us on my very special day. B'chvod Rabbi Hellman, rabbis, to my teachers and family. When my Savtin and I began the study of Beha'a'lotcha this past fall, we had no idea how perfect this parsha would be. For me, a 12-year-old girl and 6th grade student at Maimonides school, standing on the very edge of adulthood. Of course, my parents would say that I'm definitely not an adult, but they'd be mistaken. As I become a bat mitzvah, so many things change for me. My obligations to do mitzvot, my responsibilities as a Jewish young woman, my becoming a full member of the Jewish community. I am still the same girl I was before, but now my future takes a different turn. The adults around me would say that I'm making a transition. And in Parashat Beha'a'lotcha, the Jews also go through an important transition. But this is one that will change Jewish history and the Jewish future forever. When the Parsha begins, Bnei Israel are on their final part of their journey, from the desert to Eretz Canaan. After a year, they are ready to leave Midbar Sinai, the place of Har Sinai. The Mishkan has been built and dedicated, and they are about to celebrate their second Pesach. A few more laws need to be taught, and they are ready to go. All 4 promises of the Geula that we read about on Pesach have been fulfilled. Vehotzeiti, vehitzalti, vega'alti, velakachti. Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, saved us, redeemed us, and took us on our way to Eretz Canaan. Only one promise remains, Veheveiti, and Hashem will bring us to the land. For the last year, Hashem has been teaching Moshe and Bnei Israel how to be a holy nation, dedicated to him and his Torah. They have been learning about how to be in a relationship with God and have confidence in Moshe as their leader. Sure, there have been some difficult times and some challenges, but that is to be expected when you try to change a nation that has spent 210 years in slavery. It's like expecting Amiel to dance ballet, and for me to play basketball. Hashem has taken care of their every need. Their food falls from the heavens, they never outgrow their clothes, and they never wear out. And they are protected by the clouds of glory, the Ananei HaKavod. Some might call it the perfect existence, sort of like for me. For the past 12 years, my parents have taken care of all my needs, and thankfully I have been able to buy new clothes. I have had little responsibility, but I think that might be about to change. Beha'a'lotcha is about many different events that took place in a short period of time before the nation was supposed to enter Eretz Yisrael. It's a joyous and very special time, but a time also filled with uncertainty and confusion. Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik, the Rav, writes that in order to understand the different and seemingly disconnected parts of Beha'a'lotcha, we have to understand the mood of the Parsha. As he writes, and I quote, "Expectation and tension permeate the pages of Beha'a'lotcha. There is a mood of mobilization, expectancy, and this is not one of the many journeys, it was the final journey. The 2 prerequisites for moving on to the Promised Land, the giving of the Torah and the construction of the Mishkan, were finally fulfilled. The people were on their final triumphant march. Now, during this last year, Bnei Israel were learning what it means to be a nation, a mamlech kohanim begoy kadosh, and what it means to be in a relationship with Hashem. They have learned that Hashem will protect them and bless them in many ways, but this is a partnership. They, the people, have to do their part too, which is to do mitzvot and observe the Torah. 3 examples from this Parsha illustrate how Hashem, through Moshe, taught the people what a partnership with Hashem looks and feels like. The first example is to do with the Levian. The Torah tells us that the Levian were netunim heimali. They were given to Hashem. Rashi asks why the pasuk repeats the word netunim, given. He explains that the Levian had two roles in the Mishkan, one to sing and another to carry the Mishkan when it traveled. Their job was to help Aaron and the Kohanim to do the avodah, the work of the korbanot. They were an essential part of bringing the nation closer to Hashem and enabling them to worship Hashem. Originally, Hashem wanted the firstborns to be dedicated to his work in the Mishkan. However, after they participated in the sin of the Egel HaZahav, the golden calf, Hashem replaced them with a Levian. Hashem then realized that it wasn't enough to command Bnei Israel what to do or how to do the Avodat HaMishkan. Hashem sent them helpers in the form of Levian to guide them and teach them. Without this partnership, without these agents of Hashem on the ground, it was not clear that the former slave nation would succeed in Avodat Hashem. A second example of how the relationship between Hashem and Moshe Bnei Israel was the establishment of Pesach Sheni. Let's imagine together. It's the second year after Yetziat Mitzrayim, and Hashem once again commands Bnei Israel to bring the Korban Pesach and observe the Chag of Pesach. The goat is sacrificed. The Pesach is ready to be observed with all of its details. Everybody is extremely excited. Everyone, that is except for one group of people. Hashem commands that only Jewish people who are tahor, pure, can participate. Then, if you had a close family member who had recently died, you might have become tameh, impure. You would then not be allowed to participate in the Korban Pesach and join the great celebration of Yetziat Mitzrayim. It seems pretty unfair, right? You would probably feel sad and disappointed just like I would. The Torah teaches that there was a group of men who were in this exact situation. They approached Moshe and asked, "Why should we be excluded?" Moshe turned to Hashem and Hashem provided a simple answer. Those who were impure or were otherwise unable to participate in the Korban Pesach on the right day could bring the Korban Pesach 1 month later, on the 14th day of Iyar. They would eat it with matzah and maror and follow the exact rules of normal Pesach. Because these Jewish people did not want to miss out on the Korban Pesach, Hashem added a new opportunity for celebration, Pesach Sheni, and Pesach Sheni still exists to this very day. And there is one more example I want to share with you. When I was recently in Israel, in the Old City, my Savta showed me at the southwest corner of the Temple Mount from where the Kohanim blew the Chasos Road, silver trumpets, which we learned about in Parashat Beha'a'lotcha. We know that this is where they stood because archaeologists found a stone from the 1st century etched with the words, Lebeit HaChatzos Road, to the place of the trumpeting. In the Midbar, when it was time for the Machane, Jewish encampment, to move, they followed the Anan Hashem, the cloud of God. The Torah tells us, Al Pi Hashem Yachanu, Ve'al Pi Hashem Yisa'u. But that was not the only signal to travel. Hashem taught the Kohanim that they also needed to blow the trumpets and the shofar to gather the people and prepare them to move. Uteka atem trua, v'nasa'u hamachanot. Once again, Hashem and Bnei Israel together sent out signals to move forward. This partnership between Hashem and the Kohanim was about to lead Bnei Israel on the final march to Eretz Canaan, described by the Rav as it says in the Parsha. They marched from the mountain of Hashem, a distance of 3 days. The Ark of the Covenant traveled in front of them that 3-day journey to prepare them a place to settle. And the cloud of Hashem was above them by day when they traveled from the camp. The final journey had begun. They were almost at Eretz Canaan. You could imagine the excitement and anticipation. But something happened. There was a transition, but not like the good transition of a bat mitzvah girl. It's like we're watching a Netflix show, and suddenly the music changes. The screen gets dark, and there is a sense of foreboding. What my softa taught me is the word foreshadowing. Something is clearly very, very wrong. Nothing warns us of the change. There was no app to tell us to be prepared, no siren going off, rather two unusual marks in the Torah, two nunim, that are backwards, like parentheses. They appear around two psukim that are very familiar to all of us because we sing them every Shabbat in shul. Vayehi bin so Haaron, vayomar Moshe, Kuma Hashem, v'yafutzu evecha, v'yanusu misavecha mipanecha. Uvenucho yomar, shuva Hashem, rivavot alfei Yisrael. We may not see these nunim in our Chumash, but they are there in the Torah. My softa and I study the many mafarshim, commentators, who offer explanations for these unusual Torah marks. The rabbis ask, why did Hashem place the inverted nunim here? The first answer is given, that these two psukim are simply out of order. They should have been placed back in the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar. Other mafarshim teach that this section separates between the two sins of Bnei Israel, the sin of running away from Har Sinai and turning their back on Hashem, and the sin that follows, the second nun, the sin of the complainers. It is Rebbe in Masechet Shabbos who gives a completely different explanation that totally surprised and shocks me. Mipnei she sefer chashuv hu b'ifnei atzmo. These signs are there because these two psukim are considered a book unto itself. Rebbe taught that instead of 5 books of the Torah, there are actually 7 books of the Torah. Since I was little, I always learned about the 5 books of the Torah. How could somebody believe that there are 7? Here's Rebbe's calculation. The book of the Torah before the first nun are equal to 4 books: Bereshit, Shmo, Vayikra, and the first half of Bamidbar. The books after the nunim are 2, the end of Bamidbar and the book of Dvarim. That makes 6. And the 2 small psukim between the 2 backwards nuns is the itty bitty book 7. How crazy is that? How did Rebbe come up with this? Rebbe looked at the psukim before and after the 2 nunim. Before the nunim, Bnei Israel are happily on their way entering Eretz Canaan. After the nunim, all the joy and anticipation disappear, and lots of bad things begin to happen. Bnei Israel complain, Miriam sins and gets sick with tzara'at, Korach rebels, and of course the sin of the spies. One minute, the Jewish people are on the very doorstep of Eretz Canaan, and the next, they're punished to wander in the desert for another 40 years. This is the transition of Beha'a'lotcha. Fortunately, the history of the Jewish people did not end here. My transition, on the other hand, is a time of optimism and happiness. As I become a bat mitzvah, I take on the responsibilities of a Jewish woman. The examples in the first part of Beha'a'lotcha is what it means to build a relationship with Hashem and partner with Him to make this world a better and more peaceful place. Then are the models I take with me from my learning. Jewish women throughout history have changed the world with their actions and leadership. I have many models in my family, from my incredible nanny, to my softa who studied with me every week, to my grandma, who is the most kind and positive person ever, who sadly couldn't make it and is in Australia, and always has a smile on her face. To my mommy, who does so much for me and my siblings and worked so hard for this weekend to be perfect. I love you guys. Like the title of my Parsha, Beha'a'lotcha, I am excited to step up, take my place into the world.